Damage from disasters has been escalating around the world in recent years. Responding to disasters has become a major challenge for our global society in the face of expected population growth, social and economic globalization, and climate change. 3 United Nations World Conferences on Disaster Risk Reduction have been held, and the UN has adopted 3 related frameworks. They are Yokohama Strategy and Plan of Action for a Safer World, Hyogo Framework for Action, and Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. The Sendai Framework aims to reduce both disaster mortality and economic loss. Seeing disaster risk reduction as essential to a country's development, it is defined as a development issue that countries should be addressing in normal times rather than as a humanitarian issue in response to a disaster. The Sendai Framework sets 7 global targets. Substantially reduce global disaster mortality by 2030. Substantially reduce the number of affected people globally by 2030. Reduce direct disaster economic loss in relation to global gross domestic product, GDP, by 2030. Substantially reduce disaster damage to critical infrastructure and disruption of basic services, among them health and educational facilities, including through developing their resilience by 2030. Substantially increase the number of countries with national and local disaster risk reduction strategies by 2020. Substantially enhance international cooperation to developing countries through adequate and sustainable support to complement their national actions for implementation of the present framework by 2030. Substantially increase the availability of and access to multi-hazard early warning systems and disaster risk information and assessments to the people by 2030. Of these, 6 have 2030 as the completion year. The only one with a target year of 2020 is Global Target E, which reads, substantially increase the number of countries with national and local disaster risk reduction strategies. The framework also sets 4 specific priorities for action to achieve the 7 global targets. Within those, building the capacity of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Organization to modify laws and secure budgets. Advancing investment in disaster risk reduction as a basis of a country's development. And implementing the concept of Build Back Better when a disaster happens are 3 critical points that reflect Japan's knowledge and experience on disaster risk reduction. Let's take a look at Japan's history of formulating disaster risk reduction plans. The Disaster Countermeasures Basic Act was enacted following the Isebei typhoon that caused massive damage throughout Japan in 1959. Subsequently, the Act underwent a series of revisions in light of the Great Hanshin-Awaji earthquake and the Great East Japan earthquake. In the Disaster Countermeasures Basic Act, a basic disaster management plan created by Japan's Central Disaster Management Council, a local disaster management plan created by prefectural and municipal governments, and a community disaster management plan created by residents form a 3-tier structure. The structure of disaster risk reduction plans varies among developing nations. Local and community disaster management plans are therefore collectively called Local Disaster Risk Reduction Plans by JICA. Together with the National Disaster Risk Reduction Organization in the partner country's government, JICA cooperates to enable local governments to set up local disaster risk reduction plans. Let's look at local disaster risk reduction plans in detail. The role of a local disaster risk reduction plan is to gain an understanding of hazards and risks in the relevant region, estimate damage, present measures to mitigate damage, and gain the understanding of residents and the local council to secure a budget and implement measures. There are two approaches to measures. Structural measures, including constructing levee banks and coastal surge barriers, and non-structural measures, including disaster education and evacuation drills. For disasters that occur frequently and are of a medium scale or lower, the principal approach is to respond with structural measures. For disasters that occur infrequently but are massive, the approach is to respond with structural measures plus non-structural measures. Generally speaking, in developing countries, it is important to first take the structural measure approach. This is because basic infrastructure is still underdeveloped, and so structural measures against disasters are also inadequate. From the period of post-World War II poverty, 5 to 8% of the national budget was allocated to investment in disaster risk reduction and structural measures in Japan. This resulted in a drastic reduction in flood-related deaths and areas inundated. The implementation of structural measures requires a set budget and commensurate time. However, as experience has shown in Japan, if all goes smoothly, the risk of disaster does decrease as the structural measures progress. Conversely, for a certain period, although the risks are known, the risk of disaster still exists. This is called residual risk. The local disaster risk reduction plan also becomes important in reducing residual risk. This can be approached mainly using non-structural measures.
それではこれから高知県黒潮町の防災計画の事例をご紹介します。黒潮町は高さ 34.4 メートルという想像を絶する津波が予想されている地域です。事例を見る前に2つの留意点を申し上げておきます。一つは黒潮町が地方防災計画の役割のうち主に残余リスクへの対応に焦点を当てているということです。国や州が定める防災計画に沿って構造物対策が整備されていくものと思いますが、この進捗によって残余リスクが変化していきます。黒潮町はその変化をうまく捉え、取り組みを進めてきました。もう一つは地方防災計画には予算確保という側面があるということです。黒潮町では県や国の補助金を活用し、町中に避難所の設置や避難ルートの整備などを実施することができましたが、国によってはこのような補助金制度が未整備と思われます。しかしこの場合でも地方防災計画は有用です。地方防災計画を策定することにより、当該地域で最も脅威となる災害リスクが何かを特定し、そのリスクを低減するために実施すべき対策を明確化することで、議会や資金リソースへの予算要望を計画的に実施することが可能となります。それでは黒潮町の取り組みをご覧ください。
Kuroshio Town, located in the southwest of Kochi Prefecture in the Shikoku region, has about 35 kilometers of beautiful coastline. A culture and lifestyle nurtured by the bounty of the sea continue to this day. With a population of 11,400 and 42% of that population comprising the elderly aged 65 or older, it is a depopulated area. In March 2012, the national government published a paper titled New Assumptions of Nankai Trough Mega Earthquakes, where Kuroshio town was predicted to suffer the greatest damage. The predicted maximum seismic intensity was 7, the largest out of the scale being used exclusively in Japan. The largest predicted tsunami height was 34.4 meters. The earliest that tsunami would reach land would be 2 minutes after an earthquake. With 2,300 casualties and 10,000 evacuees predicted, this was a grave situation in which all residents would become evacuees. It was a harsh prediction of a case that would threaten the very existence of the town. Negative information abounded, and residents commented, "The town will disappear," or "There is nowhere to escape to." There was a widespread sentiment of resignation that it was useless to try and flee.
家も崩れるし、もう諦めるわ。
もう年取ったから逃げた時間圏もね、お茶かまん。これはもう絶対もう逃げるところはないということで。
Kuroshio Town Hall immediately set about revising the local disaster risk reduction plan. They took an approach based on disaster mitigation and an evacuation plan for Kuroshio Town from the perspective of protecting human life, which is the basic tenet of disaster risk reduction plans. Its main features were strong leadership from the mayor, town hall involvement, including setting up an information and disaster risk reduction section, resident and local community involvement. Let's learn the importance of a local disaster risk reduction plan from how Kuroshio Town involved the whole town community. When New Assumptions of Nankai Trough Mega Earthquakes was released, Mayor Katsuya Onishi took immediate action. His first step was to address all employees at the town hall. "I absolutely prohibit any thoughts or statements that negate the management of this town. And further, all our future actions and statements will be directed towards problem solving."
地震想定あまりにもちょっと衝撃的な数字でして、それが住民の皆さんがお知りになった時にどう影響を与えるのかっていうのはもうやっぱ分かるわけですね。諦められる方も出るだろうし、混乱も生じる、それから不安も生じると、そういった中で当面前線に立たなければならないその役場組織の中からですね、その不安を助長したり、あるいは諦めを助長したりするような発言が出ること、これだけは何としても食い止めんといかんと。ただまあよしって感じに皆さんなっていただけたので、職員がそれ非常に心強かった。
Toshiro Matsumoto was the manager of the Information and Disaster Risk Reduction section. At the request of Mayor Onishi, he visited the areas affected by the Great East Japan earthquake and set about devising a basic framework for disaster risk reduction in light of conditions at Kuroshio Town.
津波7メートルレベルでも逃げなければものすごい大きな犠牲者を出すんですよ、この町ではね。とにかく諦めという言葉が非常に危ないという状況をよく理解したので、東日本の現地に行った時にそこの部分を変えていく言葉とか現地のヒアリングの中で見つけていきたいと思っておったのはずっとありましたね。
The Kuroshio Town's resolve towards disaster risk reduction was announced in the form of Kuroshio Town's basic approach to Nankai Trough earthquake and tsunami measures. The guiding principle was to have no one abandon evacuation. Don't give up, flee quickly to a safer place if a quake is felt, was made the motto to be embraced by all residents.
これからいろんな環境の変化も起こってくるだろうと、その都度政策がこっち行ったりこっち行ったりってことのないように、とにかくぶれない基本的な考え方をまずしっかりしとかんと、きっと防災成立しないだろうということで、やっぱ自分たちが主体性を持って自分たちの防災を作り上げていかないかん。これは間違ってなかったと思いますけれども。
How did the residents respond to the guiding principle of have no one abandon evacuation.
一人の犠牲者も出さないというのはね、ちょっと不可能だと思いますよね。しかし僕はね、感銘したのはね、一人の避難放棄者は出さないということがね、一番上に来ました。これはね、やっぱり逃げることを諦めないという住民にも響いたと思います。
In Kuroshio Town's local disaster risk reduction plan, the guiding principle of have no one abandon evacuation is clearly written under the heading of items to be emphasized. Kuroshio Town's approach to the disaster risk reduction started with the adoption of a system of allocating local government staff to be in charge of each district. A disaster risk reduction supervisor was assigned to each of the 14 fire department squads and 61 districts under the jurisdiction of the town's fire department. This was to ensure close communication with residents and achieve swift consensus. Disaster risk reduction is directly supervised by 7 staff members of the Information and Disaster Risk Reduction section. As a result of this system of allocating staff to each area, about 200 staff members received additional duties as disaster risk reduction supervisors. Priority was given to allocating staff to the districts in which they lived.
防災セクションの職員とそれ以外の職員との意識の格差ですよね。これが限りなく小さくなってきているので、これがいざ事が起こった時に行政の組織として非常に強みを発揮するだろうと。
Once the disaster risk reduction supervisors were decided for each district, the first thing that was created was a tsunami evacuation map. Each district was further divided into groups of 6 or 7 households, and each group repeatedly held workshops. They went to the actual sites and checked details, including evacuation areas and routes, whether the distance to the evacuation area was suitable, and if there were any hazards along the evacuation route.
いろんな地域でいろんな課題がありますので、それを克服していくためにとにかく集まっていただくということを考えて、もうやるしかないというような状況でしたね。
More than 150 workshops were held, attended by a total of more than 4,600 people. These workshops were repeated in every district and served as settings for creating local communities.
職員は正直言って大変だと思うんですね。それぞれの業務を持っておいでるので大変だけど、職員の人は防災レベルの意識、防災対策とか防災施策に対するレベルは確実に上がっているし、住民とのコミュニケーション力も上がってますね。
This is the tsunami evacuation map that was created through the workshops. It specifically shows the maintenance and revision of evacuation routes. Tsunami evacuation maps were created for all 61 districts. There were 168 evacuation locations and 295 evacuation routes leading to them. This process brought to light a major problem that each route would require upgrading. The Information and Disaster Risk Reduction section created a matrix of the problems, allocated a budget, and commenced upgrade works. However, it took almost a year to progress from planning to actual upgrade work. During that time, residents criticized the authorities, saying that it was doing nothing.
その間目に見えないでしょ。役所の着実に作業進んでるんですけれど、そこで生活している方は現場が変わらないので、その間は随分怒られましたけれどね。
A year later, evacuation routes were being rolled out throughout the town. Upgrade work was started successively on about 90% of the spots, or 230 locations, identified at workshops as requiring upgrades. Criticism of the local government evaporated, and the mood around town started to change. This is the Shimotanokuchi district, where 170 households or 420 people live. The evacuation location is a small mountain called Mount Kojin, which sits in the center of the town. Because the estimated tsunami height in this zone is between 10 and 20 meters, people will be saved if they can climb this mountain quickly. Six evacuation routes were prepared on Mount Kojin. This reflected the opinion of residents who attended the workshops.
最初にですね、避難道と言われてたところはこちらのスロープの分、これくらいしかなかったわけですね。援助者がいる場合もありますのでね、やっぱり2人は最低限一緒に並んで歩けるだけの幅はどうしても欲しいということで広げたがですけど、で階段の高さですけど15センチくらいになってますね、大体。お年寄りに参考に聞いたりとか業者と打ち合わせをしながら、この高さでこれだったらいっぱい一定年齢の方でも上がれるんではないのかと。
Fences can double as handrails, so we installed them along the stairs on all evacuation routes. Here again, they were made 1.1 meters high to accommodate the elderly. Assuming a nighttime evacuation, we installed rechargeable solar lights. We also attached emergency guide lights to the handrails.
行政とのねつながりというか、あれからちょっと変わりましたよね。私のところはもう全戸浸水ですけど一個もつからない。しかし土砂崩壊とかそういういろんな形の災害の要素があるところにも入ってますので、であらゆるそれぞれ違う悩みを地区は持ってますので、それぞれの悩みをまとめてくれてますから、行政が。
Tanoura District. On this day, Mr. Imajo from the Information and Disaster Risk Reduction section visited to explain plans for evacuation routes. Representing residents were Mr. Nonami, the district mayor, and Mr. Yoshio, the deputy district mayor, who checked the fine details. The Tanoura district currently has a population of 700 people in 336 households. The estimated time for a tsunami to reach land here is 17 minutes. Work has continued on evacuation routes to enable escape to 12 evacuation areas. The evacuation routes currently being planned are expected to connect to a prefectural road that passes through high ground. The district is sandwiched between a river linked to the port and high ground. In a disaster, there is a risk of getting trapped with no place to flee.
昭和21年の時ね、だからその時はもうここら辺がやっぱり川がいっぱいになって、ここら辺が溢れてる。だから今回もっと大きい津波が来たら、とてもじゃないけど橋なんかね、全部流されちゃうから向こう行かれないと思うんだよね。
If people can get onto the prefectural road, there is a temporary evacuation area close by. This newly built evacuation center doubles as a meeting place. We took a two-pronged approach toward our aim to have no one abandon evacuation. One was to conduct workshops. At the same time, we set up evacuation areas and routes.
今はだいぶね意識が変わって逃げろうかと逃げてみろうかというような気持ちにだいぶなりつつありますので。
This is Japan's largest tsunami evacuation tower, built in the Saga district. The aim is to solve the problem of districts where people would be unable to reach high ground within the time estimated for a tsunami to reach them. Kuroshio town has limited financial resources. For construction of the tower, it utilized the accelerated temporary subsidy system under Kochi Prefecture's tsunami evacuation measures. This is a system utilizing government bonds, municipal bonds, and other tax-funded resources. Japan has a culture of addressing disaster risk reduction through this kind of a redistribution of wealth. tsunami evacuation towers have been built in 6 districts in the town. The residents themselves consulted repeatedly to refine the construction plan framework, discussing where and what size towers should be built to enable their survival. With completion of the towers, the mindset of previously resigned residents changed dramatically.
高齢の方は諦めちゃった方もおると思うがですが、とりあえず玄関口まで、玄関まで出てくれと。玄関まで出たらみんなで助け上げるけん。ほんでここまで来ればなんとかなると。生き延びれると。だけどみんな捨ててないと思いますよ。この町地区の人はね、行政がやっぱこうやって作ってくれたんで。
Houses are also being made earthquake resistant, and the town adds to the assistance provided by Kochi Prefecture. The number of such houses has rapidly increased over the past few years. This is a manifestation of the strong will of people to continue residing in their hometown of Kuroshio. Two years after starting disaster risk reduction measures, the principle of have no one abandon evacuation is firmly embedded in the town. Creating household tsunami evacuation charts was a major turning point. These came out of a survey of the evacuation actions of all 3,791 households predicted to be inundated by a tsunami and considering the evacuation plan of each person. The survey consisted of 17 items, from family composition, the possibility of evacuation without help, time taken to an evacuation area, evacuation method, and any concerns regarding evacuation. The nearest neighbor refers to the nearest people who can help during an evacuation.
勝手に乗せるわけにいかないんですね。近所の隣との普段の付き合いの中ともやっぱりそこ了解もろうてからこれ乗せてるわけですから。つながりが当然そこにできるわけですので。
10 months after commencing the survey, detailed briefings were held with household groups, and residents shared information on what to do to survive a tsunami.
地区にとっても非常にこのあれはありがたかったし、行政にとってもやっぱりいい面が出たんじゃないのかと思ってますけど。
Now, 6 years later, local government-led disaster risk reduction has entered a new phase. A new approach is being taken, which is about surviving together rather than fleeing. 3 districts held a joint workshop on this day at Ogata Junior High School, which is used as an evacuation center. An on-site verification of the Evacuation Center Operations Manual was carried out. The Evacuation Center Operations Manual is the topic of workshops that started from last year. The aim is to enable residents to independently establish and operate an evacuation center during a disaster without relying on the local government. How should we handle people with physical disabilities? What do we do if they bring a pet?
ペットスペースということで、確保をしております。
What about setting up an emergency shelter?
救護所で活用するということになっておりますので。
What is required for long-term life as an evacuee?
で来る人は6ブロック7ブロックから来る。でそのスペースをそのブロックごとみたいな分け方ができたら。
周りに、知らん人がおるがと知った人がおるがとで全然、環境が違ってくるようですので
安否確認するときにそれはどこにおるやらでこの中で探さなきゃ大変やけんむしろ分けた方ができりゃもうそこまでたどり着いた方がいいと思う。
Manual creation has only just started.
どんどんやることが増えていく感じしますもんね。
それを億劫に考えずに取り組めば普通に生活ができる。むしろ交通事故の方が怖いぞみたいなことになりますよね。
方針
そう方針がずっと必要ですよね。これが大変です。
The following paragraph appears in Kuroshio Town's Local Disaster Risk Reduction Plan under Chapter 3 titled Fostering Local Disaster Risk Reduction Capability. To save lives, it is vital that residents take action to protect themselves as well as support and help each other within the community. To that end, we will strengthen support for independent disaster risk reduction activities in the region.
もう揺れが収まったら直ちに避難行動を開始しないと人命の確保につながらないということになると、それはもう個人っていう主体者の努力以外の何者でもない。ただしそれを完全に丸投げするのではなくて、行政には行政のやらなあかんことがあって、で住民の皆さんにも自主的な避難行動を取っていただかなければならない。これをセパレートでやるのではなくて一緒にやりましょうねっていうのがうちの防災の特徴だと思いますけれども。
This is not limited to Kuroshio Town. With a focus on the Disaster Countermeasures Basic Act, all municipalities and towns in every prefecture of the country are preparing local disaster risk reduction plans. However, when a disaster occurs, we need locals to act. Our efforts to systemize their actions are embodied in the Community Disaster Risk Reduction Plan system. This commenced in 2014. The aim is to prepare highly practical plans taking account of regional characteristics and to enhance regional disaster risk reduction capability through repeated drills and improvements.
今目下最大のうちのテーマはやっぱり行政が主体性を持って指導してきた防災をどう住民の主体性に委ねる防災にこう切り替えていくかというか、こうシフトしていくか、その一つの大きな取り組みが地区防災計画であったりするんですけれども。
In Kuroshio Town, a community disaster risk reduction plan led by residents is currently being prepared as a result of discussions being held in 39 of the 61 town districts. For example, in the Tamuda district, located in an elevated area on a mountainside, wells that can be used in a disaster have been surveyed and well upgrades have been proposed.
これがまあ井戸だけどね、ちょっと今開けれんですね。でこれがモーターで、ここに水道で引き上げることができます。これ触ってみてくれたらいいけど、非常に冷たくて、飲料水にしようと思ったら一回湯沸かして沸騰させて、それから飲むようになります。
The survey revealed that there are 7 wells in this district. The 2 wells in current use were made usable in a disaster.
はい、これが井戸ですね。これも同じようにモーターで吸い上げて水道蛇口でこうホースつないで出すようにしてますね。電気が止まった時に代用できる、ポンプをもう先に購入して備え付けていつでも活用できるように置いといてもらうと。
ここも婦人部の方がその他の防災の勉強しよって水だけは欲しいわねいう話があって、一応さっきのとことこことは防災で使わせてもらっても構いませんいう許可はもらってます。
お水やったらね、物がなかったも食べるものがなかったも1週間ぐらいはね、お水で生きていけるぐらいないかっていうことでね、一番やっぱり生活用水が大事じゃないのかないう話し合いでこういうことに井戸探しを始めた。
In the Machi district, the Tsunami Tower will serve as a temporary evacuation center.
こちらが地区の防災倉庫です。ちょっと開けてみましょうか。
Under the Community Disaster Risk Reduction Plan, emergency goods from each household would be stored in the tower's disaster risk reduction storeroom.
このように、非常用持ち出し品を、積んでおります。これが私の家庭の非常用の持ち出し品になっています。ちょっと中の方お見せしますね。タオル、これちょっと女房の下着類ですね。はい。これから缶詰ですね。乾パン。
The disaster risk reduction storeroom was almost empty, so discussions with the district resulted in the idea of using it effectively.
懐中電灯からペーパータオルですかね。
At present, there are emergency boxes for 40 households stored in the tower.
小さいやつが一応6本です。 もうこれでぎっちりですね、いっぱいですね。名簿ですけど一応名字だけ入れてます。で確認が取れたらここそれでチェックしていくと。できればもう1台あれば、ね、まだいろんなものが保管できるし、もうここで変な話1週間でも生活せようとはできんかじゃないというのはね、行政ばっかりに頼ってもいかんし、自分たちでなんとかね生き抜いて助かっていきたい思って。
On a Saturday morning, members from the Tamura district assemble at the meeting hall. This is a meeting about an evacuation drill that is only 5 days away. This district has been planning a drill to cook rice at an evacuation center during an evacuation drill. This was proposed independently by the women's group.
昔の人はほら釜で炊いたことも薪で炊いたこともあるけど、自分らの年代は釜で炊くことないでしょ、薪で。いざとなった時にご飯が炊けだったら大変なので、それを一回習いたいなという。
These kinds of meetings were held in districts and led up to evacuation drills. Kuroshio Town's approach is for individuals to bring ideas, to carefully examine those ideas, and for plans to emerge spontaneously from such exchanges.
自分たちが考えてもなかったようなメニューとかアイデアっていうのが地区で生まれている地区もありまして、そんな防災に関係ないですよって思われるかもわからないけれども、僕らからしたら全然ちゃうわけですね。一旦諦めの感情が蔓延した街の中で防災に対する新しい考え方が地域から生まれてきた、これが大事なと思ってましたね。そういう地区は山ほどあって、それ非常に心強いですね。防災ってきっとそうあるべきだと思いますし。
This is the Kuroshio Town evacuation drill. People head to the evacuation locations decided by each district. The Machi district evacuation location is the Tsunami evacuation tower. 40 households will use this tower. Even a lady with walking difficulties has managed to climb up.
そうやね。そうやけんど、やっぱりスロープをつけてもらった方がカートでも押して上がれるの。
今日の想定は15分で津波が来るんだけどよ。15分で山まで行けないだろう。もうだからもうここしかないんだよね。そうなると。特に足の悪い人なんかは絶対行けない。
A young mother also participated in the drill for the sake of her children.
若い人たちはタワーに上がるのは、ね、困難じゃないですけど、お年寄りはやっぱり困難な人たちが多いので、助け合いみたいなのがやっぱり大事だなと毎回感じます。
The evacuation location for the Shimotano-Kuchi district is Mount Kojin. People climb up a long escape route. A wide range of age groups has participated, from elementary school children to the elderly. If people in their 80s hold on to the handrail, they can somehow make it up the long sloping path.
手すりを持って、ほんで階段もあって、階段トントントンと上がれてよかった。
About 80 households will use this evacuation area. During the drill, participants checked disaster risk reduction equipment placed in the evacuation area storeroom and learned how to use it.
今日は地震のことは知っていたけど、また改めて知れたのでよかったです。
An evacuation drill is a great opportunity for all residents to come together. The evacuation area is full of smiling faces.
訓練どうでした？参加されて。
いや、みんなと会えて楽しかったですよ。またに会えんとらとね、そんな時はないとなかなか会えませんけど、みんな元気で。
This year, 4,298 people participated across the whole town. This represents 37% of all residents. These figures can be seen as a barometer of residents' disaster risk reduction awareness. The initial objective is 50% participation, but the final goal is set as 70% or more.
僕は大変ね、子どもたちも参加してくれたし、主婦、女性が多かったのにね、大変嬉しく思ってます。
地震です。A disaster risk reduction drill was also conducted by the Kuroshio town hall. If a massive earthquake and tsunami occur, ensure your safety.
今最初の報告を受けました。これから直ちに避難行動を開始してください。
A disaster risk reduction headquarters is set up, and the initial response system is organized. Various disaster conditions are simulated.
入りの小学校避難所の飲料水が不足しております。対応の方をお願いします。自衛隊の方がお風呂を開設可能との連絡があります。
歩いて行ける側はもう西木の方の地域だけなので。
Conflicting information is sorted out, and countermeasures are adopted to circumstances while collaborating with associated departments. A range of conceivable conditions were assumed.
私につきましては、電気が普及していたら可能ですが、こちらでは支部なのでわからないで、本部よろしくお願いします。
本部お願いします。本部お願いします。それでいくと、本部にものすごい支障があります。
自分のところでどんなふうに解決できるか、解決する方法はないのかということを
Each staff member experienced the difficulties of initial response. This was the first drill carried out in Kuroshio town.
今までは逃げる、まず命を守る対策だったんですけども、これから命をつなぐということになると、より環境のいい避難所にするとか、そういったところに取り組めていけたらというふうには考えているところです。
On November 25th, 2016, on World Tsunami Awareness Day, the first high school student summit was held here in Kuroshio town as part of awareness-building activities.
Thank you. We are from Kochi Prefectional Ogata High School.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Ms. Chair.
About 360 high school students from 30 countries gathered, held debates, and gave presentations on issues shared by many countries, such as the threat of earthquakes and tsunami and disaster risk reduction.
Reliable knowledge. Answer some questions.
In Kenya, what you can do, you can create storage facilities.
They also experienced a Japanese evacuation drill. They shouted out to the ocean to feel the familiarity and beauty of the sea. The whole town came out to see them off. This high school student summit became an opportunity for Kuroshio town to communicate its disaster risk reduction activities to the world. Kuroshio town is currently putting its greatest efforts into disaster education. The local disaster risk reduction plan clearly states and emphasizes the importance of perceiving disasters as something relating to all, and of promoting disaster education so that everyone is equipped with correct knowledge and the ability to take action in the event of an earthquake and tsunami. A unique training method called the Kuroshio Town Tsunami Disaster Education Program has been set up at actual training sites. Its focus is not just on disaster risk reduction knowledge, such as how to escape from a tsunami and the features of tsunamis, but also on education to preserve life and to nurture an attitude in which children take the initiative to evacuate.
例えば病気で学校を休んでいましたと。でそこでお母さんの帰りを待ってました。お母さんから電話であと何分で帰るからねという連絡をもらったと。でお母さんが帰る途中に大きな地震があったと。であなたはどうしますかっていう。子どもたちは逃げると、全員が逃げるとなったんです。なぜかというと、僕が確実に逃げているんだと信じてお母さんも逃げるんだと。もしも私がそこの場所にいたら僕だけ地震津波に流されて死んでしまうと。確実に子供は逃げているという、そういう意識も持っているという。
津波の話って安心感はある？でも怖い。
家高いとかより安心しかしてない。
Disaster education is an excellent opportunity for children to learn anew about their hometown of Kuroshio and to nurture love for the local area.
魚がうまい。
カツオ空気がきれい。どこでも遊べるね。海がきれい。食べ物も。
A 9-year elementary and junior high school combined program will foster leaders to build a town that is resilient in the face of disaster.
高校生津波サミット世界大会第1回開かれましたよね。ここで大型高校2名が議長を務めた。あの姿はまさに、非常に子どもたちにとってはキラキラと輝いたような姿だったんじゃないかなと。世界に発信できるようなそんな地元愛を持てるような子どもたちが育ったら嬉しいなと思ってるんですね。
In October 2017, 13 disaster risk reduction managers from government organizations in Indonesia, such as the National Disaster Management Authority, visited Kuroshio town to learn about the town's public-private collaborative approach to disaster risk reduction measures. This was part of a 17-day JICA knowledge co-creation program. In Kuroshio town, they listened attentively to a very passionate presentation by Mayor Onishi.
ぜひインドネシアの方にお帰りになられても、そういった防災を進めていただければなと思います。
Kemudian apakah terjadi eksodus mereka tuh?
There was an endless stream of questions afterwards. Mr. Balker is the commander of the National Search and Rescue Organization. He comes from Aceh province, which suffered catastrophic damage in the Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. He lost many family members through the disaster that occurred before his very eyes. At the time, he was in the second year of senior high school. It was then that he decided his own future.
Saya rasa yang diinformasikan atau dijelaskan sama Bapak Wali Kota tadi amatlah lengkap. Yang paling terkesan itu mengenai bagaimana kekuatan komunitas dan kekuatan rumah tangga itu bisa bersatu dan bisa juga membantu orang lain. Itu yang di setiap bencana itu mempunyai problematika dan kerumitan masing-masing. Di setiap bencana kita juga harus terus belajar dan terus belajar.
Ms. Urandari of the National Disaster Management Authority supports evacuees.
Saya kagum sekali dengan Bapak Wali Kota karena beliau begitu memperhatikan warganya, masyarakatnya agar selamat dari bencana, dari harus bertanggung jawab atas dirinya sendiri pada saat kejadian bencana.
In Kuroshio town, disaster risk reduction has blended in with daily life and become a central part of the community. And here, the Kuroshio canning factory has appeared. This is a public-private project under which emergency rations are made in their own town, strengthening readiness. It is also an attempt to industrialize the town and provide employment.
やっぱ全体的に町を運営していって住民の皆さんの幸福をどう追求していくのかと。その最大の障害が津波っていうものがある。なのでそれは解消せなきゃいけませんねっていうことで、あくまでもやっぱり住民の皆さんの幸福を追求していく、住民の皆さんが幸福を追求できる、そういう街づくりをしていくっていうのもこれまでもこれからも全然変わらないと思います。
For a time, the mood in Kuroshio town was gloomy. But Mayor Onishi says that they have now returned to normal, with people chatting in the street at dusk. The town of Kuroshio fostered an increased disaster risk reduction awareness by emphasizing dialogue with residents and by taking an approach to disaster risk reduction in a form that could be readily understood by residents. Regardless of difficult situations that may be encountered in the future, the local government and residents will cooperate and confront them, based on the strong desire of the residents to protect their own lives and livelihood. Kuroshio town is aiming to have this disaster risk reduction mindset inherited by the next generation and making it an integral part of their town culture.